Hey, what's up, Steelers Nation? I'm Tyler Feldman. Is it time for a change in Pittsburgh?
And I'm Ben Bobick. I think it's time for the Steelers defense to just get back to basics.
And I'm Wayne Gandy. Stop blaming Jarrell Austin.
And I'm Chris Carter. We're going to debate all of that right here on the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. Let's get into it.
Wave those terrible towels. It's the Steelers Squad. Everything Pittsburgh Steelers every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Steel City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From the steel curtain to the next generation, the Steelers Squad Show starts now.
Yes, it does. This is the Steelers Squad Show right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, I'm your host, Tyler Feldman. So glad you're with us on this Wednesday night for this Colts preview. We're previewing that big game for the Steelers Sunday afternoon, taking on a 7-win Colts team, 1 Eastern at Acrisure Stadium. But that's a few days away. Right now, happy to be joined, as always, by 15-year NFL veteran Wayne Gandy, the future mayor of Pittsburgh, Ben Bobick, and one of the most trusted reporters covering the Steelers, Mr. Christopher Carter. And Chris, I just have to say off the bat, loving the sweater. It's that time of year, little sweater weather, stripes down the side. It's a good look.
Thank you, man. I love me some Tribe Called Quest. It's the Low End Theory album. I got a couple hip hop hoodies in my background. Granted, this is a sweater, not a hoodie, but we'll rotate them throughout the year.
Love it, love it. Wayne's got the snow cap on. Must be cold. Must be cold indoors. it must be cold inside at the Steelers practice facility, trying to warm up and figure out what's wrong. The Steelers trying to avoid 3 straight losses for the first time since 2024. So it seems to be something that is happening a bit too often. I do want to start by saying the Steelers did make a trade this week. It was talked about on the Locked On Steelers Daily podcast with Christopher Carter. Kyle Duggar, the safety from the Patriots. New England gets a 2026 6th-round draft pick, and they give up a 2026 7th-round draft pick and Duggar to the Steelers. And so this is clearly to fill the role of Deshaun Elliott. Chris, your initial thoughts on how this possibly fills that void, and is it a long-term situation here, or is this strictly a Band-Aid?
I think this is a Band-Aid. They really like Deshaun Elliott, but I think what it also does is it gives them the chance to, if Deshaun Elliott's injury turns into something that's serious, Kyle Duggar will be on their roster at the end of the season. And what's happened is, for those who don't know, the Patriots have basically paid most of this contract, and with the Steelers, it's basically chopped off the last 2 years of this contract. So this is purely a rental. Like the Steelers swapped 6th and 7th round picks to get him. So they lost really no draft capital to pick him up. I think this is a Band-Aid to replace Deshaun Elliott. I like Duggar. I think that he could be a good fit for what they're doing. He's not the best cover guy, but he can run and tackle in space, and they really need that in this secondary right now. But I think the big thing is going to be, how can they fit him in with what they're doing, but still fix their other problems, because Deshaun Elliott wasn't the spot that was hurting you that much. Right now, this is solving for a problem that's now created by his absence. I think that the thing is they need better play at free safety, at outside corner, and they need more consistent play from these guys to stick in their roles, because there have just been guys running wide open at the starts of plays, and some of it you could say, hey, this wasn't the right play call, but some of it is they have the right play call and they're just messing it up. And I think that's where it comes down to, how much is it execution, how much is it teaching to do the right things. And I don't know if Kyle Duggar is going to fix all that, but I do think this is a smart addition. If I'm Omar Khan before Tuesday, I'm trying to make one more, maybe 2 more additions, maybe trying to find a free safety, because Duggar's more of a box safety who can play a little free safety, but maybe a free safety or an outside corner that'll let you kind of move on from Darius Slay, because I truly think that he right now might be the biggest liability of all of them.
Steelers, not good defensively if you're looking at defenses across the NFL. Bottom of the barrel in total defense and in passing defense. They're not very good right now. Chris, so if you think that Omar Khan should make one or two more moves before the end of the week, real quickly before we bring in Wayne and Ben, what would a player look like? Do you have anyone in mind who would fit into this Steelers system right now?
Yeah, I mean, one guy would have been Roger McCreary from the Titans, but he got traded to the Rams, and for a relatively low price, I thought that he would fit what they're trying to do at the outside corner. He's young. He's at the end of his first contract, his rookie contract, so he wouldn't cost you that much. And if he works out, he can be a guy that you'd sign long term. But Reek Woolen, another guy from the Seahawks, not a shutdown guy, but a 6'4", really good athlete and could play outside corner. I think the biggest thing is they just need guys. I think, and we could talk about this as we go throughout the rest of the show, but I think this secondary, we now know this secondary is not the elite coverage secondary that they thought it was going to be. But they can make this a secondary that takes away the first read and eventually, like, hey, if the pass rush doesn't get home after 5 seconds, they're cooked. But if they can do those, taking away the early read things, this defense can get back on being the pace that it needs to be. And then that can be a real weapon that you fight back against offenses with. Because right now, I mean, you saw it in the first half when they were able to blitz, they got pressure, they covered correctly, things were taken away. But when the game went on and there were just coverage busts and miscommunications and, forgetting of the rules of how to react to certain pre-snap motion, everything fell apart badly. And I broke this down in a film study for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette that came out Wednesday. But that's the kind of stuff that's inexcusable. And when it starts building, compounding on itself, it snowballs, turns into an avalanche, and then you have everyone pointing fingers at each other.
Wayne, how much do you think Duggar can help on short notice? Or is there another guy internally? I know you've mentioned Jabril Peppers a ton throughout this season. Is that a guy maybe the Steelers lean on who knows the system a little bit better, who can come in and possibly wreak some havoc defensively for the Colts offense?
Well, when you looked at that last game, the thing that stood out the most that we talked about right after the game was the tackling. It was just atrocious. I mean, it was especially once the ball got out on the perimeter, the safeties coming up. As I mentioned, Warren Thornhill had one tackle in that whole football game. I mean, it was just something where you felt like Jabril Peppers couldn't do any worse in the game the way they were playing. And it's the same thing. I don't know much about Kyle Duggar, but I think that's what you are seeing in the organization. It can't be any worse than what we're doing right now as far as the effort in the tackling, the scheme, and those things. That's on the entire defense and the coordinators to fix. But what I saw, and that is still with me today, was just a secondary that was not willing to come up and exert itself in a phase that is on the individual. That has nothing to do with the coordinator. The coordinator can't make you tackle. That is you. That's what you get paid to do. That has nothing to do with scheme. That has to do with Tucker Kraft. I mean, his name is just stuck in my head, guys.
he's still
I didn't
on
even
Tucker
know the
Kraft.
guy on Sunday morning, but he's just stuck in my head now. Like I played with it because that's the kind of big plays and how he was embarrassing the secondary. I'm just glad to see a move being made. That was the best part. Whether it turns out or not, you don't have a lot of control. But as Chris is saying, he's a box guy, a guy that can come down, play against the run, something that we're desperately going to need this Sunday against Jonathan Taylor.
Oh, boy.
To take him away, that has to be your number one mission, and see if Daniel Jones is truly revived and in that stride. You got to take the run away. So I think this is just that move that who's going to fight him. If I put Jabril Peppers in, if I put Kyle Duggar in, there's nobody over there that's going to be able to, run to the media, run to the coach like, hey, coach, I don't know why you're making this move. And did you watch the game on Sunday? All those blown tackles. So why are you in my office? One of those kind of, speeches.
And my only pushback there with regard to tackling would be, well, the coordinator should be harping on that in practice, right? And we're just not seeing it in the game. And speaking of the mission to stop Jonathan Taylor, I would argue right now that mission is in critical condition because, Ben, you look at Jonathan Taylor, what an dynamic running back, a big part of that Colts offense, a big reason why they're 7-1 through their first 8 games. Well, Deshaun Elliott really helped in the run game, and now he's out. So what are the expectations looking like when you bring in Duggar or Peppers? How can the defense figure out a way to get better when you're losing one of your guys like Elliott?
And I know there wasn't a lot of positives to come from Sunday, but one that we did say, the minor one, was they did do a decent job of stopping the run on Sunday against the Packers. Now, granted, Josh Jacobs and their running back room's a little bit different than, potential, arguably the leading MVP candidate of the league here in Jonathan Taylor. And so it's a lot easier said than done, but they did a nice job of stopping the run. But having Deshaun Elliott not in the lineup obviously is a big deal. He is their run stopping guy when it comes to the secondary. But I think a lot of it just comes down to just the basics. And it's what I said at the beginning. I think it's a lot of guys maybe in their own head trying to do too much. And it's just, like I was listening to Nick and Chris on the Locked On Steelers podcast this week, man. They were just talking about a lot of guys playing. Yeah, great podcast. I highly recommend it because they said just a couple guys playing hero ball there in the secondary, trying to do too much. And it got me thinking, you know what? Sometimes that happens. You see that with your own life. Maybe you think too much when you just got to kind of stick to the basics. Hey, just stick to my assignment. Let's just stick to what we have to do. I'm just going to go out there and do my job, and then the rest of everybody, as the collective does their job, then you're going to see results. And I think that's a lot of, I think that has a lot to do with it. These guys in their own head a little bit, trying to do too much. And it's like, hey, listen, you're a team here. You got to play team football. Just do your assignment, do what's asked of you, because the little things weren't clicking on Sunday. There's just a lot of miscommunications, not in the right spots. And a lot of that is on them in terms of, they just got to get a little focused, play with an edge, get more focused and do your job basically. And I just think that's going to be, like you said, in critical condition on Sunday, because Jonathan Taylor is no joke. And then you take into account some of the weapons that the Colts have. It's going to be a tall task. It's easier said than done. But like you said, it's priority number one. And if there's anything positive to take from Sunday, they did do a decent job stopping the run. So hopefully they can continue that on Sunday against the Colts.
Mike Tomlin said earlier this week, he basically admitted that there are things and areas that need to be fixed. And then he also said, Chris, that those areas will get fixed. And I feel like that's rarefied air for Mike Tomlin, because once you admit that, yeah, we're going to fix those things, you're putting the pressure on yourself to right those wrongs. What is your take on the ability of this Steelers team as they are right now to fixing the problems schematically, whether it's coaching, tackling, all encompassing that added pressure? Where do you see this going with the Steelers team as we look into week 9?
I think that the thing is that the mistakes that we're seeing are not like forced errors. This isn't like, if I'm playing tennis against Serena Williams and she's just firing, her ace serve down and I can't touch it, or like I'm trying to guard Steph Curry in the 3-point line and he just hits it from wherever. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? This isn't like that. I think that, there were times, and this is why I think it's louder about the Packers than it was against the Bengals, because there were times where that's Jamar Chase, man. He's going to get us. That's T. Higgins. He's going to get us. Like the deep ball to Higgins that beat Ramsey. That's not a bad scheme to play. It's just, sometimes you bite the dog. Sometimes the dog bites you. But in the Packers game, there were some plays like that, like the Tucker Kraft, just lob up on third down where he kind of pushes off Deshaun Elliott. That's a play where, like, you know what, you got there. But then the 4th and 1 to Tucker Kraft, where he just rolls to the flat behind a bunch of formation, and you just see Joey Porter Jr. just be like, oh, yeah, I was supposed to get that guy. Those are the things that you can and must be sharper at, and you have to challenge people to be sharper at across the board. And I think when you see these mistakes, it's clear that when like one mistake happened, things fell apart. When I talked to Cam Hayward, I asked him, hey, you guys said this happened. What went on? He said, we have to handle adversity better. And I think part of what happened was, and again, I wrote about this, was early on, the Steelers were anticipating so many things the Packers are doing. They clearly had a game plan that says Jordan Love likes to do this. He likes to do that. Take this away. Take that away. The best third down in the offense in the NFL didn't convert a single third down in the first half. And then in the second half, it was like the Steelers, they got beat by 2 plays and then they forgot all their fundamentals, all their basics, and then just mistakes upon mistakes. And then the Colts, the Packers, I just got done doing crossover Thursday, so I'm like just getting out of talking about the Colts. But the Packers were just basically like, we'll take that free play, thank you. And that's where the Steelers have to stop beating themselves. And there's a level where it does come down to that's on the player. The player has to be better. But when the coaches see it, I think the thing is that coaching is when you see it, and then you have to adjust to it. You have to find ways to get around it. And that's where the Steelers coaches have to apply things.
Speaking of adjustments, still to come on tonight's show, we'll go inside the locker room and hear more what the players had to say today about making more adjustments and handling adversity. Plus, Wayne's World, where the NFL vet will share his thoughts on what's grinding his gears, or not maybe, with these Steelers. That's next right here on the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. But first, tonight's show is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS top safety pick awards than anyone else. From footwork to breath work, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. And with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, back here on the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. It is week 9 of this NFL season. The Steelers 4-3. They're hosting the Indianapolis Colts 1 Eastern Sunday at Acrisure Stadium. The Steelers, they've got a lot of stuff to clean up. And I think a lot of the conversation around the fan base right now is it finally time for a change? We've been dealing with pretty much above average mediocrity for a dozen or so years. And the reality is, if you're any team, but if you're really the Steelers in that organization, the standard is much higher than the standard. They say the standard is the standard. Well, that standard has not been met. And so is it scheme? Is it coaching? Is it the players? Let's digest and break down what is the crux of why the Steelers just don't have that feel that I feel like they had when they were winning Super Bowls in the early 2000s and those great teams from the past. Wayne, I'll start with you. What's the problem here and how do we fix it?
Well, you talk about players from the past and just honestly, guys aren't cut that way anymore. The pattern of the player, and I think this is something that we're all adjusting to no matter what team we support, what sport we support. We're looking for a certain demeanor and hunger, lay it out there kind of attitude. And we're going to have to adjust a tad bit to the new world of player that the Steelers even have to choose from a lot of times. When I look at it from this point on, I can start saying that I can put more on the coaches. I think if anything, the coaches thought they had the cards in their hand. You know, they were playing spades and they just knew those aces were going to walk, but they didn't know Ben was already cutting diamonds off the top. But they counted them. They counted that ace and king, and he went to cutting them. And now
Wayne, be careful. They don't know about spades over here, man. It's just like be on their head. These guys will be reneging.
Before the show, you knew about it.
I'm a new spades guy. I'm new to spades. My fiance's parents taught me, so I'm loving what you're throwing here. I'm getting this.
Well, it's kind of like that. It's like when you looked at based on names, Slade, Ramsey, Porter, you kind of felt like, okay, I don't have to do a lot of scheming. I got the horses that can pull this cart. And now it becomes, okay, I got to be realistic. Some of these guys are a step slower. They're in a different phase in their career. Now I got to use them and place them in a better situation. I might not be able to play as much man. I might not be able to play this corner on the outside or inside as much. And now the coaching part has to really come in and reevaluate how to use these guys. It is not just I can send these 3 corners out there and they're just going to shut people out. Okay, that's not going to happen. So now how do I use them to be more effective? So right now, I think they're just in that quandary of finding that balance and treating these guys more as mortals than superheroes.
Carl Hassan plug. We all know spades and hearts. I mean, come on, Wayne. Come on, Chris. They know it. I don't really know it. I'm like, what the hell are we talking about? Give me Uno, and that's just about fine with me. Hey, Ben, coaching, scheme, players, ownership, it's just not what it needs to be. Where do you think the biggest change needs to happen, and how do you actually think the Steelers will enact that change? Because that's where I'm at. I don't really see the Steelers. They've been comfortable. How many coaches in the last 60 plus years? A change is not really a part of the Steelers' backbone, but times are changing.
Yeah.
And I just feel like the Steelers are falling behind here.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. That is the Steelers' way, in a sense, is staying the course. Don't make any rash decisions. I think when and if Mike Tomlin is no longer the Steelers coach, it will be a mutual sort of parting, if you will. It'll be either he's going to be done or they're going to go their separate ways. I don't think we'll have a situation where he's fired by any means. But I think if you really want to talk about this and really dive into what needs to happen to change, you got to find a franchise quarterback. The Steelers were so good for so long because of Ben Roethlisberger, and then that's just how it is in the league, and a lot of the times it's kind of how it always has been. You look at the teams that are legit Super Bowl contenders: Bills, Chiefs, Ravens, Eagles. The Packers. What do they all have in common? They have
Browns.
Yeah. But those teams have a legitimate franchise quarterback. You talk a lot about Andy Reid. Andy Reid's great. Andy Reid is a fantastic coach. He's a Hall of Fame coach. But would he still be coaching right now if he didn't have Patrick Mahomes? Maybe, probably not though. Probably not, because why would he retire now when you're trying to stack Lombardi trophies when you got a generational player like that? And I understand it may not always work out for everybody. I mean, look at the Bills still searching for their first Super Bowl in franchise history and Josh Allen still trying to get there. But you know what? They have a legitimate shot every year with that guy under center, and I think that's what it comes down to. And obviously with Ben moving on a couple years ago, we've kind of just been in this influx, if you will. And Aaron Rodgers, if at most, is just a Band-Aid to that. And while he's a future Hall of Famer in his own right, but obviously he's 41 years old. So it's only going to be good for maybe this year, at most 2. So you have to find that next guy. And when you find that next guy, that's where you really need to take advantage of it. And so I hate to do this. But they thought it was Kenny Pickett. Didn't work out, moved on. But they need to find that franchise quarterback, and I think that will change a lot of people's opinions, because if you want to look at it from through that lens, and to keep it simple, but I mean I choose to look at it that way because I just think it's how the league is.
See, Ben, I agree with you. There's no doubt the Steelers need a franchise quarterback, and I used to play that card. Speaking of cards, I used to play that card all the time, but with this Steelers team, I think even if you have a franchise quarterback, the defense, Chris, has been so disappointing that I'm not even sure if you have your guy under center who's the right guy and the long-term guy, that the results any different this season. And that's why I go back to coaching, or above coaching to ownership, to make actual changes. What are your thoughts on that, Chris?
I think that sometimes you got to be careful not to turn a paper cut into a mortal wound. It's certainly been disappointing the last 2 weeks, seeing the losses dropping from 4-1 to 4-3. But you'd think, by the way that we're all talking about this right now, that the Steelers were 1-7 or 2-6 or 2-5, like the Ravens, like the Browns. I look at this and I hear you. Like, things got to be better. Things got to be a lot better on defense. It's not scapegoating that. But like, when we're talking about, should there be a change? Should they just fire people right now? They're 4-3 and would be the 4th seed in the playoffs right now. They would host their first playoff game, since 2020, with the way that they're playing right now. And certainly they need to correct things. I'm not saying that they don't, but I think that sometimes there is an exaggeration of how bad things are. I remember when they lost those 3 games towards the end, I think it was the 2023 season, they went from 7-4 to 7-7. I got into an argument with my boy Josh Roundtree on 93.7 The Fan, and he said, this is just like Andy Reid's final season. And I said, Andy Reid's final season was 4-12. We just completely blow up things to be things that they are not. Yes, things need to be better. The defense is playing atrociously, but we're acting like even in your question, Tyler, you're saying, well, this defense this year, yes, this defense this year is bad, but this has been a top 10 defense for 3 years. Like we're talking about Terrell Austin, people are saying he's worse than Matt Canada. No, he's not. He legit built a defense the last 3 years that's been a top 10 unit. One of those years was top 6, and that was with problems and guys missing injuries. I do think that there are things that need to be better. I do think there's coaching that needs to be better. I think that Mike Tomlin, I think if you want a real critique of Mike Tomlin and what's going on, I think sometimes he trusts Terrell Austin too much. I think Terrell Austin does a good job designing certain schemes and saying, hey, let's trick them into this play. Like the play where Juan Thornhill ran to the sideline, just ran to the wrong zone, but he had the right idea. There's times where if they are able to execute in moments, the schemes are there. But I think that there is a teaching and there is a push that isn't there from Terrell Austin that I think that with Mike Tomlin being a little more hands-on with the defense is a thing. But Mike Tomlin is very, some people think that his ego is too big and he controls everything. I think it's the opposite. I think sometimes he believes in his structure, in his stability, because that's part of what makes the Steelers organization work. It's like, hey, Terrell Austin, Arthur Smith, we trust you guys. If you remember when Matt Canada was terrible as an offensive coordinator, Mike Tomlin would not dog him publicly. Now, behind the scenes, sure, there was some things being said, but publicly, he's not going to come out and just dog his guys. That's not how he operates. And so are there changes that could be made? Sure. I even said on Locked On Steelers after this end of the season last year, I'm like, they could move on from Terrell Austin. I don't think that would be a bad play. But, I also said they could move on from Pat Meyer because I don't know if I've seen the growth in the offensive line. And what are we seeing right now? I think that let's give this defense time to figure some things out. And I'm not saying this does not excuse what they've done poorly already, but I do think there's the chance that they figure out a few things, they make a couple of plays, all of a sudden they can hit a rhythm, they can figure something out. And they don't, and right now, I don't think there's any way that they become that elite defense that people thought they could be, and I thought that they could be. But if they could round out to being an above average defense and this offense continues to improve the way it has week after week, that can be a dangerous football team. And I do think that that's there. So I feel like cutting off, saying let's make a plan to just cut bait and just completely rewrite everything while the team is sitting in first place in their division and in a playoff spot, I think that's a little rich.
Chris, I certainly see that as sound reasoning, and I think a lot of Steelers fans appreciate that sound reasoning. And it's not apples to apples here with what I'm about to say, but with Dan Hughes replacing Mike Sullivan, the Penguins deciding to go elsewhere, bringing a new head coach. Everyone was saying, hey, the Penguins are going to be bottom 5. Well, look what the Penguins are doing. The resurgence of their big 3, where all 3 of them are just crushing it. They're 7-2-2, and that whether it's new energy, new scheme, something's different. I think the comfortability within the Steelers organization right now is a big part of the problem. Wayne, do you see comfortability with where the Steelers are at as a problem, or something, as Chris was alluding to, where Mike is entrusting his coordinators and his coaching staff to do their job to their best of the ability? I think we're at the point, though, where maybe Mike T, maybe Coach T has to take over a little bit more because that trust isn't necessarily paying off.
Yeah, but that's his style of coaching. That is the way that he's been successful. And he's going to rely on his coordinators to get the job done. Some coaches come over and Cowher would just take over the defense. He would go and decide he's the special team coach right in the middle of the game, and just take their authority away. And once you do that, now you can't go back. You can't go over there and take the sheet from Jim Haslett and then tell him he's the coordinator next week. And that was a little rift between them. So it's a very shaky ground when you start doing that, because guys come and be part of your staff based on how they think they're going to be managed as well. So it's based on Mike's response, his cohesion with his coordinators. I think that if he's giving that confidence to Austin, we have to trust that that's something, as Chris was even alluding to. We're 4-3, but isn't this team about a 4-3 team? Isn't the talent out there, maybe 5-2, or maybe it's us because we got a little greedy and we forgot, we're really dealing with like a 10-17, a 10-17, and we started thinking it was bigger than it is. So we've just lost some games, I think, or, last week was just a display. I think defensively, we keep saying where we're all just shocked. Of especially in that second half, because the first half was so quiet and so orderly and everybody seemed to be doing their jobs. But I trust Coach Tomlin in the way that I would let him implement his team the way that he's earned that right. And if that's his style of coaching, that's his style of coaching. And I would rather be fired he looks like a guy that would rather be fired doing it the way he does it than to try to make a whole bunch of adjustments to appease people.
Yeah, you certainly have to respect and appreciate Coach T's character and how he operates and how he's been able to operate at such a high level over so many seasons. But Ben, we're at the point now where something I feel like does have to change. I feel like we keep moving from coordinators to coordinators, and it's just not working the way in which the expectation is that it needs to work. What is your take on this whole predicament? And it's not, again, going back to what Chris said, they're 4-3. They're in a good position, but it doesn't hit the standard of which Steelers Nation sees this franchise and what this team should be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to let there's still so much.
Chris, dive in, Chris. Come on. Let's hit
on.
No.
Ben, that was Ben's turn. I apologize. Okay. That's just like, what?
I just think there's so much season left to be played here. Where, like I said, we're technically still. I mean, I guess you could say we're at Halloween now because by the time they play again, it'll be November. But it's just you have to see how the rest of the season plays out. I still think the season is young. The defense has had a couple of bad games. It's tough to find a team that's going to play sound for all 18 for that matter. And so it's you have to give them a chance to figure it out. Like Chris mentioned too, and I think we all could agree that offense does seemingly getting better here week by week, which is obviously a good thing. And you just have too many veterans on that defense that they aren't going to figure it out. I do think it's a bit of overthinking. I think they need to go to the Michael Scott method, the KISS method of keep it simple, stupid, and just do your job, Simon football, do what's asked of you. But I think any overhauling change, we know what the Steelers wouldn't happen to after the season. I think you have to kind of see how it all plays out. And obviously we hit a little rough patch here, but you have to, like what we talked about, I think about a month ago now, when we were ranting about how you want to see this team get better and better as the season goes on. And if they're going to have a rough patch, I'd rather it be in late October and early November than late December, early January when they had it last year and they weren't even competitive in the playoffs and they went on that losing streak to end the season. So there's going to be some bumps and bruises. It's with NFL football. It's what football is all about for any team. So I think you see any wholesale change, it won't be till after the season because there's a lot of time left. But you did mention Dan Hughes and the Penguins off to their great start. Hey, let's not discredit Donnie Kelly either, because he almost got the Pirates to 500 record since he took over as well. So, 2 claps for him too.
I'm legally holding myself to not talk about the Pirates until things really start to change over on that part of the North Shore. That's what I hold to myself. Chris?
I also want to point out when you say 7-2-2, I hate that in hockey. They're 7-4. Like they lost.
Well, I don't know if you saw that Flyers game the other night. That was
no. Listen. I am
Crosby
Pittsburgh over Philly all day. That was wild. But my thing here is that I think hockey has shown historically you can often flip coaches and things be fine. That's how the Penguins have won a lot of their championships, right? Dan Bylsma got put in the middle of the year. They were last in their conference, and all of a sudden they were best. They were winning. Then they get rid of Dan Bylsma. Then it was whoever was in between. Then when Sullivan comes in, similarly they were really bad. Then all of a sudden they were really good. I think hockey's shown that, but I think historically with football, it is not that easy. Like people often say, "Well, Andy Reid, they moved on from him." Yeah, sure. Nick Sirianni is like the 4th coach since Andy Reid. And it's not always that simple to just fire a guy in the NFL, especially when you're not falling apart, when you are competing. And I think that the Rooneys are clinging to, and maybe not clinging to, but they have a philosophy that as long as the head coach has the locker room, as long as as our stars that we building our team around believe in that guy, we're going to keep him. Because Bill Cowher had some really bad years, 6-10 twice in his career, 7-9. But if you go back and you read some of the articles from the old Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, I think Bob Smizek was writing about it, and he was like, when Bill Cowher got his extension, Dan Rooney was saying, it's because they still have the locker room. They're still fighting. They're not giving up. And we believe that he has the right head on his shoulders to lead our ship into the right direction. And you look at this team, and certain things are developing. Again, the offensive line is playing better. I think you're seeing Roman Wilson grow. I think you're seeing the offense in general grow. I think guys like Derek Harmon are playing better. I think the problem is they invested in a lot of these veteran defensive backs, and they aren't playing well. And I think that's where things have really hit the fan for the Steelers. But when people compare it to, they got rid of Andy Reid and Bill Belichick again as he got fired. Those guys had 4-win seasons to end their careers. If the Steelers lose out the rest of this year, I would not be shocked if the Rooneys got rid of him. They said, all right, you know what, Mike, thanks for your services. But that's different from 10-7 in back-to-back years. 3 out of the last 5 years, they've had double-digit win seasons. 4 out of the last 5 years, they've been in the playoffs. That's very different from the utter collapses that a lot of the really good coaches that have gotten fired from their jobs have had. And I think that's where, when someone says Steelers fans are spoiled, that's what they mean. Because Steelers fans think we're 4-3 in first place in the division. And, oh my God, this is the worst season I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, relax, buddy. I've seen so many. When you got to cover the NFL and when you got to cover college football, trust me, I've covered some bad Pitt football years. There is. Really
I bet you have, Chris. I bet you have.
I've covered a 3-9 season, buddy. Like that's pretty rough. And so, that's when things are really bad. The Steelers have never experienced that, and if they do this year, it'll be the first time in Mike Tomlin's 18 years of coaching.
We're familiar with that stat. We know. Hey, we also know that we've got to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this with Wayne's World. Hey, I'm looking forward to hearing what Wayne has to say in his world. That's next right here on the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. NFL season is here, and honestly, there's nothing better than being inside the stadium, surrounded by the fans cheering on the Steelers. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping to checkout, it can be pretty frustrating. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Gametime, and in just a couple taps, saw amazing deals talking about my favorite NFL teams and the games that they play in as low as $100. And the app makes it super simple. I can even see the exact view from my seat before buying. I also love zone deals. Pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've ever purchased tickets. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Welcome back to the Steelers Squad Show. Let's get the Gametime ad read off there. Yes, there we go. Wayne Gandy, former Steelers offensive lineman, Ben Bobick, Christopher Carter. It is week 9 of the NFL season. The Steelers gearing up to play a 7-1 Colts team Sunday at Acrisure Stadium, 1 Eastern. You can watch the game on CBS. It is time now for Wayne's World, where we go into the world of the 15-year NFL vet and hear what he has to say and what he's thinking about things. Wayne, I have no idea. We did not communicate prior to the show, so this is going to be a complete surprise for all of us. What's in your world right now?
Well, right now, I need Chris to help me make sure I'm on the right path. Is Alex Highsmith injured? Is he hurt?
I think he's fine right now. I think that he's okay. I think he's at least 90% healthy.
Okay, so he's 90% healthy. Can he make 90% of an effort to get to the quarterback? I haven't seen him around the quarterback. Please help me out. If the defensive backs aren't going to cover, then the defensive line has to add the pressure to make up for that. Well, we can't get the double team off of TJ until the other pass rusher makes a mark. And I never see Alex Highsmith hounding people. He's getting the one-on-one single block over there, coming off that left side. And I need more. And if you're injured, raise your hand. Let's see what Nick Herbert can do. If not, let's try something. But we got to be able to get this double team, these backs, these tight ends off of TJ sometime so he can get free. Because I can see in his older age, he's getting a little frustrated. You know, he's waiting for that sometimes where he can see that he has that single block and now he can attack. But a lot of the balance, rushers come in tandem. I play on a lot of teams where you have one pass rusher and, you know, the splash they make is not there. So we keep talking about other parts of the defense. The biggest part to me, as well as the bad tackling, the overrated DBs, is that Nick Herbert Alex Highsmith is not making an impact on the game. And when I say that, it's not just so it can improve his game, but so that we can free up the best defensive player we have to find some situation where you get more and more one-on-one blocks over there against the right tackle.
Chris, inside the locker room, do you sense that something's off with Highsmith right now?
No, I think that part of what's going on is Alex Highsmith has always been a good edge rusher, but he's more of a balanced edge defender. He's really good against the run. He does that very well, and then he can win one-on-ones. But I think part of the problem with the pass rush is the guys are coming too open too quickly. Like you look at some of the plays, like that Tucker Kraft play where Jordan Love just threw up a duck that Kraft was able to pull down after he pushed Deshaun Elliott. Both Highsmith and Watt like sandwiched Love the second he let the ball go. There were other plays where the Steelers were a step away here and there. Same thing I said about Joe Flacco. There was times where guys were just way too open, way too early. And I think that if the coverage, and this is what I said earlier, I think if there's a critique of what the Steelers' philosophy defensive philosophy should change and how they should move forward, I think it's saying, hey, you know what? We're going to focus less on trying to do all of these disguises on the back end or on the deeper side of the field to try to force you into a pass 40 yards downfield that are safety jumps. And we're going to say, you know what? Figure out how to get the ball out before 3 seconds, because we're going to cloud that part of the field. We're going to make it so that you don't have easy reads early. And you know what? If you block us for 5 seconds, great, you're going to kill us. But if you don't, if then TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, Cam Hayward, Derek Carr, they're going to be coming. And I think that that is still there for this team if they can get it. But like, again, Joe Flacco and Jordan Love collectively averaged under 3 seconds per pass. Like as far as from snap to pass, you can't get home. And here's the thing. The plan is to stop TJ Watt is the same thing the Steelers did to stop Myles Garrett. Like Myles Garrett was basically mitigated in that game. Broderick Jones didn't shut him down entirely just by he didn't physically own him, but strategically the Steelers said, we're going to call this play, this play, this play. We're going to have these protection packages and you will not destroy us and neither will your teammates. And it worked. And I think that's what a lot of teams are doing to the Steelers right now. And the main thing in how to counter if you're the Steelers is they need to be better at the line of scrimmage, taking away the first read, the quick reads. And then when that happens, I think you'll see the pass rush return.
Ben, to the defensive side of the ball for the Steelers, schematically, do they need to be more innovative? It seems like I keep seeing these videos pop up of former players talking about how the same thing the Steelers did a decade ago, they're still doing now, and it's just not working. Or do you think that's just a bunch of noise?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, sometimes that's the chess match that is the NFL, man. This is the top 1% with these guys calling plays and vice versa. I mean, there's going to be some that the one team gets and then vice versa. And to shout out Chris, too, what he mentioned his film study with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. I dove into that this morning, and it almost brought me back down to earth because he kind of it just shows you, hey, people are a lot of noise about the coordinators, and they're saying they need to be better. Not really. I mean, yeah, in some cases, but there are these certain aspects of the game where if he would have did this, then it might have figured it out, or if he would have went to the spot he was supposed to go to, And then like, and he actually shows you what it is. And it kind of makes it more, at least it gives you a visual aid to be like, okay, well, then it kind of makes sense, because while the Steelers, like, you could see them kind of motioning and like the communication just looks off. And now it all kind of clicks together, where it's like, okay, well, that makes sense how that opened up now, because they look like they were on the same page, and then they weren't on the same page when the play, played out. So, but I do think it's a little bit of both, though. They need to be a little bit more creative, sometimes creative in situations like that. But that's the ultimate chess match of the NFL, though, man. I mean, everyone's trying to put the pieces in the right spot. Like on Sunday, for example, we know the Colts are going to run the football with Jonathan Taylor. They're going to want to operate off play action, get it to their incredibly talented and educated tight end Tyler Warren. They're going to want to get into some of these receivers that they have and whatnot. Like but like, how do you stop it? You got to figure it out. And sometimes it's just, hey, this is what we're doing. We just need to win these battles. And like Wayne's been talking about since Sunday night, fundamentally tackle better. A lot of these, if you tackle better, then that will also kind of pick up as well. So I think what it comes down to from the beginning, when I said just keep the basics, do the fundamentals right, do your assignment, and then go from there. Because if you do that, and I think they're already going to take a step forward with this defense. And then if you're doing that and they're still getting beat, then maybe the scheme comes into it. Maybe you need to be a little bit more creative. But I think the Steelers' biggest issue is just the basics of assignment football and tackling, which is what they just need to do better. Point blank, period.
Coming up next, we will talk about how the Steelers figure out a way to avoid a third straight loss and beat a Colts team with an offense that is leading in points per game, total yards per play. This is going to be an uphill battle defensively for the Steelers, and we'll talk about it next on the Locked On Steelers Squad Show.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs. With features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance, you can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go, while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So, let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, back here. Final quarter of this Wednesday night edition of the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. Happy to have Ben Bobick, former Steeler, Wayne Gandy, and Locked On Steelers daily podcast host and Pittsburgh Post-Gazette reporter Christopher Carter on the show here tonight. The Steelers, big one Sunday at Acrisure Stadium. Think they may need to play Renegade a few times. It's the 7-1. It's the 7-1 Colts. Hey, I just want to make sure it still works. Okay, it hasn't been working enough.
It hasn't been working. I was like, but they just need to play it every possession. Just do it all the time. Eventually, it's gonna hit.
Annoy the opposition. Hey, could work. It might be annoying, but it could work. That's 1 Eastern Sunday at Acrisure Stadium. The Steelers have 10 games left. It's week 9 of this NFL season. You look at the rest of the schedule, guys, it's kind of a gauntlet. So, yes, they're in playoff position, but you look at what remains for these Steelers. It's the Colts this week. Next week, it's the Chargers. Then you've got to take on the Bengals again. Bears aren't bad. Buffalo, Baltimore, maybe they will be in a better position at that point of the season. You've still got Detroit. You got a lot of tough games remaining on the schedule, but maybe the Steelers can figure out a way to answer some of their problems defensively. Let's talk about this Colts matchup. Chris, when you look at Colts coming to town, what they've been able to do this season, what is the key for Steelers victory Sunday afternoon?
I think one thing is they cannot allow the defense to be manipulated the way they have the last 2 times they've played Shane Steichen and the Colts. They love, and we'll talk about this a lot on Locked On Steelers with Locked On Colts, the crossover Thursday episode. But You cannot allow that offense to manipulate the middle part of the field the way that they like to do it. And Daniel Jones has proved good at it this year. You got to make sure that that's not destroying you. And I don't think this is a game where the defense is going to resurrect everything and they're going to figure it all out and shut it down. But if this defense can just create a few turnovers, if they can get a few short fields, if they can win a couple, if they can keep the scoring to like 25, 24 points, and this offense comes out and does damage against the Colts defense that I don't think is as good as their overall points say right now. I think that's the ticket that you have to ride on. I also think that the Steelers need to trust that they can be more aggressive on offense. And Mike Tomlin said that, hey, we can't settle for field goals. Well, maybe he needs to go for it a few more times. In general, I get trusting Chris Boswell because that gives you a 9-point lead going into halftime. But sometimes you want more, and sometimes you need to, DK Metcalf needs to catch a pass in the end zone. Sometimes you need to not commit stupid penalties that waste those things. In both. In the last two games, you had Zach Frazier's hold that called back a Jaylen Warren touchdown that turned into a field goal. You had penalties that wiped out really good drives for the Steelers in this game. You got to play clean football and offense. And I think that if this can turn into a game where you're possessing the football by running the ball, use that heavy package, that's how you can wear down this Colts defense, let Aaron Rodgers make a couple big plays here and there. And then if the defense can just hold on, make a couple big plays, you can find your way to beating the Colts. Because I will say this, listen, like I do a sheet every week where I rank, points per game, estimated points, expected points, explosive run rates, and things like all this. And the Colts numbers are ridiculous. They're number one in so many categories, top 5 in so many categories. But then when I look at the defenses they've played the Chargers, who I think they're kind of suspect. And they played the Broncos, who are a good defense, but not a good. I think they're kind of like where the Steelers are. They're not a great team. They're not a bad team. They're kind of a good team that's figuring things out. But the rest of their teams that they've beaten up on have been mostly bad teams. The best team they played is the Rams, and they lost. And so I think if you can punch the Colts in the mouth with a powerful run game, with the heavy set, and the defense can make a few turnovers, you can beat them. Because honestly, I think the Steelers have the best win of these two teams so far in how they beat the Patriots. So if there's a blueprint, I think that's close to it.
Wayne, what about this Colts offensive line? It seems like one of the best in the league, the way they've been able to protect Daniel Jones so far this season.
Yeah, the Colts have had a pretty good line the last handful of years. Regardless of the record, they've had some strong tackles, great movement inside with the guards and centers. We got a big task as far as how they can run the ball. And the biggest key is winning first down. You got to win first down. You can't just let them come out and get 4 or 5 yards, and now you're in 2nd and 5. That's what they want to do. We got to win first down, whether it's the short passing game, knocking the ball down, or penetration up front. The D-line has to come up big. And offensively, we're going to have to stay on the field. Third down is going to be key. We can't be in those 3rd and longs. We can't have those penalties, as Chris was saying. A lot of times that was affecting the game. We're moving the ball, and then we find ourselves with a penalty that's putting us in 3rd and long behind. We don't have that kind of offense. This offense is stay in front of the chains, keep the ball moving. Our offensive line is going to have to continue with that. I don't know what they call it, the big boy package, eating up some clock, using Spencer Anderson and Washington, and just be physical. Make it an ugly game. Stay on the field. Need some long drives. Let them sit over there. They're an indoor team coming outdoor. Take advantage of that. Let's hope it's raining and a little chilly in Pittsburgh. It's always gloomy up there. And my biggest thing is, Tyler, is when are we going to get back to the Steeler optimism? The Steeler fan I used to love because they was always optimistic.
Wayne's
no matter
right now
what situation we were in, the Steeler fan always made me feel like it can start this Sunday. It can start this Sunday. Now it's looking at the schedule, talking about who can we beat. Well, we can beat all of them. This is the NFL. Every team can be beat. But I feel like I'm in Atlanta with the Atlanta fans. That's usually what I keep for them. They suspect in Atlanta, but the Steeler fan was always on my side. Now it's like every move, everything is a disaster, and you can't tell whether we won or lost at the end. Let's get back to the optimism that we're the steel curtain, right? We
were. I wouldn't call whatever I'm watching the steel curtain. Look, I appreciate the outlook of wanting to be optimistic. Here's where I'm at right now, Wayne. The Penguins are bringing me immense joy. I had no idea this was going to happen. I'm watching the Penguins. I'm like, wow, the young talent meshing with the future Hall of Famers. This is incredible. The Pirates, I don't even deal with because that just makes me super sad. And the Steelers right now are kind of in the middle, and I'm not sure which direction they're heading. That's where I'm at. And I want to be optimistic. I want to, Wayne. I want to get back to those years where I was like, this team can do no wrong. Dick LeBeau's defense is going to come in and knock the crap out of every offense that they face. But that's not the reality, right? It's just not the reality. So this is where we're at, Ben. And when we look at the Colts, how do you match up against a team that offensively looks to be so perfect right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, we talked about it, sporadically throughout the show, man. You got to stop the run. Do your best to stop Jonathan Taylor. That's obviously number one. And Chris mentioned it too. Is just that middle of the field has been just such an issue for the Steelers defense, amongst other things. But they've been getting gashed in the middle of the field. And if there's one guy that could really do it to him, it's one that you and I know all too well. Like I said earlier, supremely educated, a supremely talented guy in Tyler Warren.
Hey,
we're talking about a guy, huh?
Pan down, Ben, just real quickly, talking Tyler Warren. Just pan down. What's that shirt say? Oh, okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah, just in case.
Nice. Okay.
How many Power 4 wins they got right now?
Still proud.
Here we go.
Zero and hopefully counting. But
Lamar Aaron told me he never went to class.
Yeah. But I just think all jokes aside with Tyler Warren, he's their leading receiver in terms of yards, man. He's a load. He's a guy that could do it all. We watch him. He snapped the ball and got a touchdown pass while he was interfered with against USC. This guy is a Swiss Army knife, and so he's a weapon. They're gonna have to do their best to. They're not going to stop him, but at least in terms of just limit his success on offense. But like we mentioned too, I think the Steelers are running the ball pretty well. You look at the last two games, man. They were averaged 5.2 yards a carry against Green Bay, and they were over 6 yards against Cincinnati. They're starting to get some push with that line. If they could set the tone on running the football against them, I think it could be pretty. I really do think it'd be pretty solid.
They abandoned the run against Green Bay. Despite that, that was the frustrating part.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. But I think the biggest thing with that when it comes to the defense is you have to create a turnover. And that's one thing that they've been missing the last 3 games. They haven't had a turnover in the United States since September 21st. It's been well over a month. So it's that, but that's what that defense feeds off of, though. They really do. They're the splash plays, right? We love the thing I love about the Steelers defense, especially in this Mike Tomlin era, or the splash plays. It's TJ Watt getting in the backfield and causing havoc, whether it's a strip sack or the defense, undercutting the pass. That's what it's all about, and then that's what this defense strives for, but also that's when they're at their best, and that's when they get their swag back. They get their juices flowing when they're creating turnovers. So I think that's the biggest thing we need to see in this game, at least from the defense, is creating some turnovers, getting some juice, and going from there.
Prediction time, Chris. I know it's Wednesday, so if you're going to pass, that's fine, but just want to allow you the opportunity nonetheless.
I'll chip in. I'll say this. I think that, first of all, I want to shout out Wayne. Great point about the whole fan thing. I went off on a Steelers fan who was like, the reason I became a fan is because they won all the time. I'm like, this is what makes Steelers fans look really soft. Because, I talk to Bills fans that are like, do you know what we went through? We went through 20 years of nothing, of losing season after losing season, but we showed up because they were our boys.
And they went to 4 straight Super Bowls. How young is this fan?
What happened after the 4 straight Super Bowls? How long were they completely inept? Tyler, come on, Tyler, come on, man. Come on.
Hey, I just don't. You know how I am. I'm just always going to try to push you a little bit.
Come on. From the Frank Wycheck Miracle in the Meadowlands or whatever that was the the pass that beat the Bills, they sucked until Josh Allen got there. That was 2 decades of suck that they had. But throughout all of that, Bills fans are like, those are our boys. No matter what happens, we're still going to be there. We're still going to be cheering. We're going to be packing it in. We're not going to be getting quiet for teams. And that's the kind of thing that I think Steelers fans used to have. And even when Cowher was 6-10 and 7-9, they had us. And now people are like, man, I'm so mad. This team stinks that they're 10-7 every year. And I'm like, I hear Wayne. That's not the Steelers fans that I grew up knowing who would cheer no matter what happened. Like, you got people saying like, I don't, justifying like the season ticket holders who aren't showing up and they're giving their seats away to fans of other teams. I'm like, that's the stuff that used to be like, man, you ain't a real fan. Get up out of here, buddy. I think that is somewhat missing in the fan base right now, and that's something that, like, I think there are people out there, like I see some of them in the comment section here that's being like, yeah, I'm tired of the half glass full, half glass empty mentality. So wanted to point out, Wayne, great point by you earlier. But in talking about this game, I still think the Steelers' defensive problems are too great right now to counter what the Colts are humming at a high level. If there is a ticket to winning this game, it's what I said. They got to possess the football well. They have to run the football well. They have to score efficiently. And I think when I say score efficiently, I mean get touchdowns, but take time off the clock to not let that defense be on the field for too long. I still think this defense can shape itself up. I don't know if this is the week that they're going to do that. I think that the Colts find a way to win 34-24, and the Steelers defense has more things to answer for. But I do think this could be a game where if they're able to generate a couple turnovers, they're able to generate some things, get the pressure going that they can learn from, rather than the last 2 games where it's just been compounding mistakes vastly upon each other. But I also get the sense, guys, that if this isn't 34-24, if this is more like 42-17, that might spark some of the changes. I don't think Tomlin changes, but I do think that Terrell Austin might need to look over his shoulder a little bit if it's a blowout and the defense is just leaving guys open left and right.
Wayne, do you see a blowout here Sunday?
No, I'm kind of what Chris said, but I was more 28-24 Colts in this game. I think it's going to be a better showing. But I don't think you can fix that many problems that quick. You know, if it was 2 weeks from now, we had a bye, sure. But with the Colts and the way they're able to run the ball, that part is cemented. That's something they've been able to do with Jonathan Taylor since he's been there when he's been healthy. So, and I believe that's the part that's going to give them the edge in this game. And I think 28-24.
Last week, Ben and I both picked the Packers, and everyone in the comments was, how could you pick against the Steelers? This is a Steelers show. And here we have 2 early picks for the Colts. Ben, do you go 3 picks for the Colts?
No, I'm sticking with us here, Tyler. Just like you mentioned on Sunday, man. This feels.
You let the people get to you. You let the people get inside your head.
We talked about it. Hey, listen, I'm heating up here. I'm back to back. I had the Bungs over the Steelers, and I had the Packers last week. So I got a little odd hand here. But you said it on Sunday, man. I don't know. It's one of those games where I feel like the Steelers bring the Colts into the mud. They're going to win it. And I think it's exactly what they do on Sunday. I think it's a sloppy game for Indianapolis. They've been playing so well, and like Chris said, they've been humming. Like, could it continue? And if it does, you tip the cap to them and you keep on moving down the freeway. But I just think the Steelers bring the Colts into the mud with them, and I see Pittsburgh pulling it out 26-20. I see an opportunity to put it away for the Steelers late. They obviously don't do that, but they kick the field goal to make Indianapolis have to score a touchdown, and the defense does what it needs to do there at the end of the game to come away with the 26-20 win.
All right, Colts favored by 3.5. Over-under is 50.5 points. I'm taking the over, and I'm saying the Colts cover as well. I'm saying it's 40-33. I think offensively the Steelers, again, I haven't seen enough from that defense. No Elliott. I hope I'm wrong, Steelers Nation. I really do, but that's how I feel things will shake out, and then we'll come back here next Wednesday and try to find more solutions to the problem. That'll do it, though, for this edition, Week 9 edition of the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. It's the Steelers and the Colts, Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh, the confluence of the 3 rivers, as Mike Tirico always loves to say on Sunday Night Football. It is 1 Eastern on CBS, so maybe the Steelers will pull things out and turn this ship around. If not, a reminder, the audio of tonight's show on the Locked On Steelers podcast channel. You can listen wherever and however you podcast. And Steelers Nation, be sure to like and subscribe. We would really appreciate that. As always, hope you enjoyed tonight's show. That'll do it, though, for this edition, the Indianapolis Colts preview edition. For former Steeler Wayne Gandy, Mr. Pittsburgh Ben Bobick, Locked On Steelers daily podcast host and Pittsburgh Post-Gazette reporter Christopher Carter, I'm Tyler Feldman saying good night, and here we go. We'll see you after the game Sunday afternoon.